Breaking news today. Which side is winning this war? My great-aunt Nani Ami's vivid imagination envisioned a tennis match between opposing armies, with volleys of gunfire lasting until dusk, followed by tea and the trading of samosas and pastries across the trenches. So, when Nani Ami lifted the Quran in her right hand, a sort of holy gateway under which I was to pass, I knew it was time to put on my first khaki uniform, web belt, beret, and army shoes and head to Cham in the western sector to cover the 1971 Pakistan War. 2 Imam Zamins, or amulets, were then produced by her. One that she secured around my right arm to ensure my safety. She also gave me an amulet for my cousin Akbar, a major on the opposing side, whom she insisted would come find me when the fighting stopped for the day. The endearing naivete with which my great-aunt viewed war flooded back to me as vividly as if it had happened yesterday. While providing an update on the conflict in Ukraine, a confident anchor rolled her eyes and asked, "Who is winning the war? There has been no surrender from Volodymyr Zelensky. There has been no anti-war uprising within the Kremlin to challenge Vladimir Putin. Joe Biden, Vice President of the United States, has yet to release the Pentagon report that forbids the upgrading of weapons to Ukraine. Nothing of the sort has occurred. Is there a stalemate in the war? Has a year and a half really passed with nothing happening since Russian troops invaded Ukraine on February 24, 2022? The Russian invasion date will be emblazoned on textbooks for centuries to come. A partnership, without limits, signed in the Kremlin by Xi Jinping and Putin, and the new era in relations between the two spelled out in sequence by Xi during Putin's visit to Beijing on February 4 will be among the dates I jot down in my private notebook. I'd like to suggest that while the pretty anchor is encouraging viewers to delve into the depths of their minds to determine a winner in Ukraine, she should also keep an eye on West Asia, where there are already signs of victory and defeat. With Russia's strong support, China is changing every major dynamic in the region. Consider the recent thaw in relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran. I recall that when the Arab world was divided along Shia and Sunni lines, prominent figures like Henry Kissinger gave the Palestinian issue low priority. The West never compared Shah's Iran with the rest of Shia Iran and Sunni Arab countries. They were on the same side. The godless Chinese saw the schism for what it was, a political tactic that could only be fixed through political means. The brilliant book The Siege of Mecca by Yaroslav Trofimov describes the 1979 siege of Islam's holiest mosque by Juhayman al-Otaibi and his followers, which coincided with the overthrow of the Shah in Tehran. This book confirmed what the Chinese already suspected: the Otaibi branch of the Muslim Brotherhood was the seed from which al-Qaeda grew. During the sole superpower era, everything ran smoothly. As the Saudis saw Washington's hold on the international order weaken, they jumped at the chance to forge a new future with Iran. An unexpected breakthrough for peace between apparently implacable foes leads to a chain reaction. Much like a single assassination in Sarajevo led to a series of events that became World War I after a complex prisoner swap, a lasting peace between Yemen and Saudi Arabia seems likely. The peace agreement reached between Saudi Arabia and Iran is largely attributable to Chinese mediation efforts. The Houthis in Yemen now have more time to focus on other pieces of the regional puzzle. Previously concerned with Saudi Arabia and other GCC countries, the Hash al-Shabi and Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq, the original Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, and of course Hamas in Gaza can now turn their attention to Israel and, of course, U.S. bases in the region. Officials from Turkey, Syria, and Iran were in Moscow not too long ago. Even though Erdogan would benefit from improved relations with Syria ahead of elections on May 14, Assad's advisors don't want to rule out the possibility of opening dialogue with the opposition's loose coalition of parties. The Iranian technical teams were negotiating details on the exchange of ambassadors in Riyadh on the same day that the Syrian foreign minister was there. So far, so good, but Riyadh's real apprehension is directed at the Aquanor brothers, who are boiling under the repression of the Egyptian army led by Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. The 2012 election of Muslim Brotherhood leader Mohamed Morsi was divisive in the United States. The Pentagon, where Israel has more sway, was adamant that Morsi must go, despite support for his removal from power from the White House and the Department of State. The Saudis arrived with $8 billion to help stabilize Sisi, and they were overjoyed. When this happened, since then, the entire region has undergone dramatic shifts. Will the Sisi dictatorship be able to hold firm in the face of so much upheaval? To Israel's dismay, the brothers' possible revival would give the Hamas in Gaza a unifying force. This column's anchor, who is on the lookout for winners in Ukraine, might find the preceding stories interesting. Without European Union President Ursula von der Leyen, a Western hawk on Ukraine, accompanying French President Emmanuel Macron on his peace mission to Beijing, the visit would have been a breach in the Western facade. Whether it be in Ukraine or Taiwan, Macron has repeatedly urged Europe to distance itself from U.S. policy. I'm hoping this chasm in the much-touted Western unity is big enough for the central figure in our story to figure out whether it's a sign of progress or failure. She has every right to be dissatisfied with the way the story ends. True. After all, the U.S. has established a diplomatic mission in remote Vanuatu as part of its strategy to surround China.